Hello my dear students, welcome to my channel Patel Science Academy, and in this lecture I am going to teach you about this menstrual cycle in human female. As you know, this is Shahzad sir and this is my channel Patel Science Academy. Now in this lecture I'll teach you about the menstrual cycle, the biology and the menstrual cycle. What is the relationship in between this biology and the menstrual cycle? To learn it, we have to first introduce this topic. So menstrual cycle is always regulated by fluctuating the levels of the sex hormone. Dear students, this sex hormone is very important part during this menstrual cycle, because this sex hormone regulates the process of menstruation in the human female. I'll explain the detail of all that sex hormone in the next slides. These hormones produce certain changes in the ovaries and the uterus of the female body. As you know, in the female reproductive system there is ovary and there is a uterus. The number of changes that takes place in the ovaries and the uterus, it is always done by this sex hormone. The humans are nearly unique amongst the species in having the menstrual cycle, and amongst the class mammals, there are some other species that do not show the menstrual cycle. Instead of menstrual cycle, they show the estrous cycle. For example, in the deer, estrous cycle is present instead of menstrual cycle. So there are basic terms for the menstrual cycle, and you have to be familiar with that terms. The first term, it includes endometrium. What is endometrium? As you know, there is a part in the female reproductive system, uterus. The lining of the uterus wall, it is called endometrium. So just remember it, endometrium, because in the next slide you will have some relationship of all these terms in this menstrual cycle. Then the next is oocyte. What is oocyte? It is the developing reproductive cell. Ovum, it's a matured egg after the process of the cell division, meiosis. Then the menopause. What is menopause? It is the last menstrual cycle. Dear students, when the puberty life start, means when the sexual life start, that process, it is called menarche. And when this process stop for always forever, this process is called menopause, because in this process, after having this process, the egg production process stops for lifetime. So these are some terms: endometrium, oocytes, ovum, and the menopause, that is related with this chapter, with this topic. Oogenesis. What is oogenesis? As you know, oogenesis is the topic for the production of the female gamete, that is called oo or egg or ovum. So that process is called oogenesis. So dear students, diagrammatically you can see here the process of oogenesis. In this process, the first cell, you will see here the primordial germinal cell, PMC, which is diploid. It is going to be converted into this oogonium cell, which is diploid, having the double number of chromosome. It goes for the cell division and it converts first into the primary oocytes. This primary oocytes, it goes for the first meiotic cell division, and by the first meiotic cell division, it converts into these two stages, two cell. This stage is called resting stage. During the first meiotic cell division, it converts into these two cells. One cell is called first polar body, another one is called secondary oocyte. This secondary oocyte, it goes for the second meiotic division, and in the second meiotic division, during in this secondary oocytes, there are some changes. It divides and it converts into again these two cells, and out of these two cells, one is called second polar body, and another one is called haploid oocyte. So this oocyte then converts into an ovum, which is also called egg, which is the female gamete, which is haploid. So likewise, by this process, the diploid cell convert into the diploid cell, this which is called oogonium. It converts into this ovum, haploid cell, by having the two cell division, meiotic cell division. By first meiotic cell division, it converts into this first polar body and the secondary oocytes, and by second meiotic division, it converts into finally ovum, which is haploid, having the half number of chromosome. The full number of chromosome present in the diploid cell of the female cell, it is always 46 number of chromosome, and it converts into this haploid number of chromosome, means the half number of this diploid cell, which is 23 number of chromosomes. So all these changes takes place in this ovary of the female body, and you can see all these changes. This is the ovary, and in this ovary there are these changes. This is primary oocytes, this is primary follicle. It goes for the different changes likewise, and finally it converts into this structure. This structure is called mature follicle, which is also called Graafian follicle. I have explained this topic in my one special lecture previously. This matured follicle, it shows the presence of this egg, and this egg, it goes for the process of ovulation, and this ovulation is nothing but the process of release of this egg from the ovary by rupturing its wall from the Graafian follicle. This process is called ovulation, and this egg, that is secondary oocyte, it releases from the ovary, and if the body is married, it is during the process of the intercourse, it get fused by the sperm and converts into the zygote diploid cell, and diploid cell zygote then in future become the next generation of that body. And if it is not converted, if the process, if that body is bachelor, so what will happen with this egg? It will be released by the process of the urination from the body, and then this Graafian follicle become empty, and this Graafian follicle first it will convert into this structure with no egg, because the process of ovulation has already taken place. So this structure with the without an egg or ovum, it is called corpus luteum, and this corpus luteum, it goes finally into this structure. It converts into this structure that is called corpus albicans. So all these changes from this primary follicle to Graafian follicle, and from this Graafian follicle to the ovum formation, and from ovum formation by having the process of the ovulation, by passing through the ovulation, it goes for the corpus luteum and corpus albicans. All these changes in the ovary takes place during the process of the menstrual cycle, and this is that cycle which is called menstrual cycle or MC, which takes place in the body of human female. So in this lecture you are going to learn about this process and what happens, and for how many days it is, and for how many phases it goes to convert into this egg, and what happened with this egg we'll see one by one here. So dear students, in the next slides you will see the changes in this structure. You can see here, this is the female reproductive system, and in this female reproductive system, as you know, there are two ovaries, you can see here, and these are the different changes in the ovaries and endometrium of the uterus. So this is the endocrine system, hypothalamus, which controls this process by the GnRH. It releases two hormones, follicle stimulating hormone FSH and LH, luteinizing hormone, by the gland, anterior pituitary gland, anterior part of the pituitary gland. And then the changes in the level of this hormone, luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. You can see the blood level of the follicle stimulating hormone here by this graph. Thereafter, some changes you will see here in this C diagram. The growth of the follicle takes place. These are the dear student, these are the different changes that takes place during the menstrual cycle in the ovary of the female. The growth of the follicle taking place from the primary cell to the Graafian follicle by this FSH and LH. What happened then? There is a process of ovulation, and then it goes for the release of some other hormone that is called estrogen and progesterone. This estrogen and progesterone, it is responsible for the process of ovulation and the production of the corpus luteum and the corpus albicans. So blood levels of the estrogen, you can see here there's a peak rise in the estrogen level and the decrease in the progesterone level. So decrease in the progesterone level, it goes for the menstruation for the next cycle in the female body. So likewise there are different changes in the female ovary during this process. So dear students, one by one we'll see here in the next slide. There are 4 phases in the menstrual cycle. Phase number 1 is called menstrual flow or bleeding phase. Second phase is called proliferative phase. Third phase is called ovulation, and the fourth one is called luteal phase. Dear students, these are the different phases of menstrual cycle. Number 1, there are 4 phases in the menstrual cycle. Menstrual flow, first phase or bleeding phase, proliferative phase, ovulation phase, and the luteal phase. Now we'll see some other point during this menstruation or menstrual cycle. During which days of the cycle is FSH, that is follicle stimulating hormone, at its lowest level? So during this whole menstrual cycle, at which day the follicle stimulating hormones level is low? So dear students, answer is here. Follicle stimulating hormone is at its lowest during the last day of cycle, means at the 28 number day of this cycle, the follicle stimulating hormone level is very low. When FSH levels are low, what is the size of the follicle in the ovary? When its size is low, the size of the follicle, what are the changes? It is shrinking and it is disappearing while a new set is growing. So these are the biological events of the menstrual cycle. You can see here, this is primordial follicle and it is going for the different changes from day 1 to day 28. We'll see it one by one. What is happening to estrogen during the follicle phase? What is the relationship in the estrogen hormone? It deepens, then rise. First it deepens and then its level rises. In response, the uterus lining deepens, then rises. This is the role of estrogen. Then about the ovulation process, the release of egg from the Graafian follicle by rupturing its wall, it takes place at the 14 number day of cycle. When this cycle goes for the 14 number day, the process of ovulation takes place. Usually marks an event that is called ovulation. Follicle ruptures during the process of the ovulation, and it opens and releases the ripened egg, and the pituitary hormone like the luteinizing hormone LH and the follicle stimulating hormone FSH are at its peak. Estrogen is also released from the follicle. You can see here the level of this LH luteinizing hormone and the level of this follicle stimulating hormone at its peak during the process of ovulation. You can remember it. Then the hormone and what happens in the ovaries with the hormone during the different stages or phases of the menstrual cycle. During the luteal phase, after releasing an egg, means after the 40 number days, what happened? It goes for the luteal phase, and after releasing an egg, the follicles turns into the corpus luteum, as I shown you in the diagram previously. The corpus luteum manufactures one hormone that is called progesterone, and this progesterone, it goes for the menstruation, the shedding of inner lining of the uterus. This is the role of estrogen. What about the length and the timing of the cycle? So let's see it one by one. Normal menstrual cycle, it is about 20 to 36 to 40 days. This is the normal menstrual cycle average rate of days, but average rate is about 28 days. So it is confirmed that average rate in the female body for the menstrual cycle, it is about 28 days. Menstruation, the first phase, it begins from the very first day and continues until about day number 4 to 5. It means the first phase, that is bleeding phase, in which the endometrial walls, the lining of the endometrium, it breaks and the blood comes from the ovary outside the body. So that phase is called menstruation or first phase or menstrual flow or the bleeding phase. It is from day 1 to 4, fourth number day or fifth number day. Then what about the second phase, the follicular phase? It is called follicular phase or proliferative phase. It extends from the day number 5, about the 5 day to about the 30 number days. So it means second phase is from the 5th number days to 13 number days. Then comes the third number phase, that is called ovulation. During that process, the process of release of ovum from the Graafian follicle from the ovary takes place. It is only for 1 day, and that is the day number 14. And then the last phase, that is luteal phase, it extends from the 15 number day after the ovulation to the end of the cycle, that is about the 28 number days. Other cyclic changes takes place in the body of the female reproductive system. There are two other physiological processes fluctuate with the menstrual cycle: the cervical mucus cycle and the basal body temperature cycle. So this is the graph showing the basal body temperature. You can see here from the day number 1 to day number 28, up to 28 on an average. This is the death of month, coitus, and the menstruation. Then the fluctuations in the performance. The fluctuation in the performance, it includes the research on the intellectual or the athletic performance generally shows no fluctuations over the cycles, and release on the academic performance, problem solving, memory, or creative thinking shows no fluctuations over the cycle. What causes the fluctuation in the mood? There are some factors, biological factors, like fluctuation in the level of the hormones, environmental factors, menstrual taboos, and the cultural expectation. All that factors are responsible for the fluctuations. Cycles in the main. So on study found that evidences of the behavioral cycles in the main, and the another studies identified that the high testosterone level in the main were correlated with the depression, and other researchers have found cycles in the men's emotional states. So this is about this lecture. Thank you very much, dear students. Please subscribe my channel, like my video, share with your friends and all needies, comments for your queries, and till then, this is Shazasa saying you goodbye. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you very much.